Welcome to the Private Practice Startup, where we inspire you from startup to mastery. We chat with entrepreneurs, experts in the mental health and business arenas, and successful private practitioners to give you the tools needed to make your dream practice a reality. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, and so much more. Here are your hosts, Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux. What's up, Startup Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Private Practice Startup Podcast. Today is going to be a unique experience. I'm so excited about today's guest. And it's actually just going to be myself. I don't have a co-host today. So this is the first time I'm actually hosting the podcast by myself. We've done 54 episodes up to this point, Katie and I. And today we have Joe Muirhead, all the way from Australia. Woohoo is right. Hey, Joe.
Hi, welcome to the Southern Hemisphere.
Yes, it's so funny because here it is. It's 5:00 on a Thursday. I'm ending my day in private practice, and Joe is just waking up. It's 7:00 there, right, in Australia?
Yes, and I am awake. I promise.
And you are awake. Yes, you are chipper. We've been talking for about 15 minutes so far, having a blast. And so, yeah, we're so excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is great. You girls have so much energy and it's just so much fun to be a part of your community.
Oh, right back at you, Joe. So we had a great show last week as well. Last week we had Brad Pliner, and he's the CEO of Therapy Notes. And he talked about 5 benefits of using cloud-based EMR software for private practitioners. And if you haven't listened to that episode yet, definitely go back and check that out. We offered tons of practice building, value bombs, and ninja tips as usual. Again, we're super excited to have Joe Muirhead here today from Purple Co. And she is a Chief Life Changer. That's such a unique title. I love that. How did you come up with that, Joe?
Well, I guess I'm a rehabilitation counselor by qualification. So I have a health sciences degree. And when you introduce yourself as a rehabilitation counselor, people kind of look at you strange and go, huh? And then most people think that means drug and alcohol, which is hilarious because I am way too judgmental to work with that client population. It's better that you know who you are rather than try and force yourself, square peg, round hole, all of that. So I spent some time thinking about what it is, like what's my gift to the world? What is it that I'm really good at doing? And I help people take back their lives and help people change their lives after really serious injury, illness, trauma, burnout, being sick, or having massive shifts in their life and transitions in their life. So Chief Life Changer just seemed to fit. I've also had a couple of clients refer to me as, we couldn't have done this without your help. And that's always great for the ego, but it kind of really encapsulates what it is that I do and what my business stands for.
Beautiful. Well, Joe is going to be talking to us today about how to talk, write, and speak so that your ideal clients can hear you. And this is going to be episode 55. And Joe's got 3 tips to go over with us here today. But before we get into that, I just want to take a moment to say thank you guys, Startup Nation, for listening. If you're a return listener, welcome back. We love having you a part of our community. And if you're a first-time listener, make sure to head over to our resources tab on the website. It's theprivatepracticestartup.com, and download our A to Z cheat sheet, the essentials for building your dream private practice. And for everybody, if you guys are not connected within our Facebook community, make sure you request to be a part of that. It's at the Private Practice Startup on Facebook. You'll find us there. And Joe and I connected, gosh, I don't know, I'd say 4-6 months ago, something like that online.
Yeah, it feels like a lot longer, but it really hasn't been that long.
It really hasn't been that long. It's so funny because I've come across your information and your marketing for different events, and I've seen you on some of the other practice builder communities, and then you and I connected, and ever since we connected, our connection just felt so organic, and we've been in sync, and I've loved every minute of it. So I think our listeners are going to kind of catch that as they hear our podcast today.
Yeah, no, it really does feel like I have found soul sisters on the other side of the planet.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. So Joe, tell us a little bit about what led you into the business that you're in now with Purple Co. and the coaching that you do.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I kind of fell into Purple Co. So I took myself out of the paid workforce as a consultant rehabilitation counselor because I found myself being a workplace bully because I was working for people where it wasn't a good fit. And I had this unhelpful belief that I was never going to be the leader. I was always going to be the best 2IC I could be, 2IC, second in charge. So I'd helped grow other businesses. I've done the small boutique, bespoke providership or agency. And then I've done a large national, I grew a national agency as well. Started off with 12 full-time equivalents, grew that to 24 in less than 18 months. And Australia's a fairly large landmass, so that was a pretty big achievement. But I found that doing clinical work wasn't a good fit as an employee. And so then I just tried to do management as an employee, and then I tried to combine the two and became a clinician who managed, and that's worse. So I took that's just not a good fit for me. So I took myself out of the paid workforce and used up all of my savings trying to learn how to trade the US stock market, because apparently a trained monkey can do that successfully, but Joe Muirhead can't. So I gifted Your Economy all of my savings. Woohoo. Found myself needing some cash. So I went back to what I knew and made the decision that I was only going to work with clients that were a good fit for me, and I was only going to consult. So this is a subcontractor arrangement so that I had some flexibility. So if an employer or an organization I was consulting to wasn't a good fit for me, it was easy for me to pull out. So it was really around self-preservation. So within 6 weeks, I had a completely full caseload. I had priced myself at the extreme high end of the market. I actually went out and found out what the average hourly rate was and then increased it by 20%. In 6 weeks, I still had more work than I knew what to do with. In 6 weeks, I brought on my first associate. We kind of just floundered around for 6 months. She really came on almost full time with me. And then the tax man hit me, and to become more tax effective, I needed to stop being what's known as a sole trader here, which is where I ran everything through my business name. And I was talking to my mum, going, Mum, I need to come up with a more tax effective way of doing things. My accountant's telling me I need to become a company or a proprietary limited. We need to come up with a name. So we banded things around. She goes, well, you're all about purpose for people. And I went, I am. And she goes, so you should call yourself Purple Co. And that's how Purple Co was born.
Wow. That's so cool that your mom was a part of the origin of that name.
Absolutely. So I tend to do cool things, like I put purple in my hair and I wear purple a lot because I want to be really memorable. And we help people return to work following injury, illness, and trauma. So we work with people who've had, motor vehicle accident survivors, post-cancer survivors, depression, anxiety. Basically, if it's a medical condition or a functional disability, I've probably worked with it over the last 20 years. And I'm all about making the impossible possible for people. So I truly believe that everybody can work. It's really rare that we will have somebody come into our service that we say can't work. Sometimes there are jurisdiction or legal things that make it tough, but we are so creative and out of the box in terms, and the way we can generate income these days and the way we can work these days is so varied. Nobody needs to be trapped in a 9-to-5 job where you actually have to go into an office every day anymore. So workplace accessibility has helped us, and we get to work with some amazing people who do life-changing things. And that's kind of how the business has evolved. So it started off with just me. Now I have a team of 10 clinicians, and we get flown all over the country to do the work that we do because we're known to get the job done and the job done right. So I have a mixture of insurance-based work here and private clients. Very, very particular about the type of insurance that we do here. The service level contracts that I sign, we always dictate the rate. Nobody tells us the rate. So I've always been a little fascinated by people who have signed insurance contracts where they're only receiving $30 an hour for sessions. I just think that's abhorrent. Yeah. And then the coaching kind of came out of about 5 years ago. People started noticing that what I was doing was different. I vowed I would never treat people like a number, never treat people like a compliance statistic, that I really wanted the people that came into our service to get value from us and for the experience to be life-changing. And it started to get some notice, and other clinicians, occupational therapists, speech pathologists, physios, they started taking notice and asked me if I could show them what I've done. So I started off with my first coaching program, which was called Business of One, which is all about starting and getting started. And that was a 12-month coaching program, which was really, really successful. I helped people launch into $360,000 a year jobs in the first 18 months. So that was pretty awesome. And then from there, it's just grown and evolved. My coaching now, I have a 3-month program. I have a 6-month program. I offer once-off power coaching sessions, and I have a 12-week introductory let's go and get some more bums on seats program as well. So yeah, I just love it because I see the clinicians, if we don't take care of ourselves, I guess that's the core a core in my message. I see so many clinicians burning out or doing work poorly or not understanding the fit for them. And then they end up sick or they end up going and getting a job. And I just think it's such a waste. Our clients need us. The world needs us. And if I can help people build something that is meaningful for them, that works for them, then I want to be a part of that.
That's so beautiful. Gosh, as you talk, I can really hear your passion come through and your niche, and then how you've kind of organically just started working with other professionals, entrepreneurs, private practitioners to really follow their dreams and make a difference in the world. And as you talk, I can hear like 5 other podcast topics that we'd love to interview you on, but we'll start with this one today. So, cool. Joe, what would you say is the best advice you've ever received that relates to being in business as an entrepreneur?
Well, the most motivating advice I ever got was somebody telling me that what I do can't be done.
You're like, I'll prove you wrong. Watch me.
Yeah, pretty much. It was like, what? Hey, wait, hang on a minute. So the best piece of business advice that I've always received is that you've got to care for yourself first. And it took me a long time to actually really understand it. And I think there's layers to this as well. It's not something you just wake up one day and you've got. Okay, so our mind and our body are the tools of our trade. And if we are not looking after our mind and our body, if we're not nourishing it, if we're not sleeping well, if we're not putting water in it, if we're not moving, if we're not exercising, then we can't expect that this body and this mind is going to continue to function at its best. And if we don't present ourselves at our best or, towards our best for our clients, then really what are we doing? And I get a little bit cranky about that. So falling asleep in session, it's just unacceptable. Forgetting clients' names is just unacceptable. And there are really simple things that we can be doing to make sure that we're you don't not put fuel in your car. So you know what? Eating during the day is a smart thing to do.
Yes, for sure. I couldn't agree with you more. Definitely. That's something that a lot of clinicians struggle with. I'm a supervisor here in Florida, and novice practitioners, a lot of times they just have these high expectations of themselves and go out and they, get overcommitted and overbooked. And then they soon are struggling with compassion fatigue or burnout and really have to get back to the basics. And that's such an important part of the foundation. So that's a whole nother topic that could, we could spend 30 minutes on, but let's dive into the topic we're focusing on today with how to talk, write, and speak so your ideal clients can hear you. So I know you have 3 tips or 3 talking points, really. Let's get started on what's the first one, Joe?
Okay, so the most important piece and where you've got to start is you've got to know who you are. And I'm not just saying your name, your credentials, and where your geographic location. That's not enough. You actually need to know why you're servicing the clients that you want to serve. And you really need to think about that and have it very, very clear in your mind. And to say, I will serve everyone is awesome if you want to be a generalist, but understand why you're choosing that specific client group. You also need to know your energy levels and understanding what energizes you and what depletes you. And you need to be able to set your work day up and your work week up and your work month up and your work quarter up in a way that actually supports your energy levels. Because if you don't do that, you're going to burn out. It's very, very simple. You need to know what types of supervision you need, because I believe every clinician ongoing needs some level of supervision or consultation into your life. You need more experienced people speaking into your life. You also need to know how much training and professional development you want to do and when you're going to do it and how you're going to do it. Finding cheap, free CEUs the day before your CEU bank is due really isn't a great way to be an adult. Just putting it out there. But I think the big part of this conversation is, why are you? What is it about you that makes you a great fit for your ideal client. And if you can start the conversation there, and this is what I do in my 6-month coaching program, is I help people get that foundational and fundamental truth pulled out of them. So for me, I've always been fascinated between people and work. So the intersection for me makes perfect sense that I'm all about helping people find their purpose through their work. I just don't know how to do anything else. I always come back to that particular topic. It just oozes out of me. It's a no-brainer for me. But other people are wonderful working with people who are drug and alcohol dependent. It's not my strength, but when you understand why that's such a good fit for you and why that population, you can serve them to the best of your ability all the time, then it becomes effortless and it starts the foundation of your conversation, which is essentially what marketing is, easily. You don't have to fight yourself. And that's what I see so many clinicians doing is they're fighting themselves because they're going, I need to work with this client population because I know they've got money and I know they're in my geographical location and I know the doctors need to refer to me and I know I need to be on this insurance panel. So I know I can eat at the end of the week, yet it's not work they enjoy. Mm-hmm. We don't live in countries where that is a necessity. If we are sensible and thoughtful and have somebody who can take us through a process to help us really dig around and find out what this is, then you're actually setting yourself up for success. So do it that way rather than trying to find a population where you think you'll make money, because you won't.
Yeah, when you're connected to your passion, I mean, it really makes such a world of difference. And when you can work with the clients that you love to work with, that's going to translate into your clinical work. And our clients are, they're free marketing. They're a wonderful referral source. So when we are passionate and we love what we do and we do our best work with the people that we most enjoy working with, they're going to go out and they're going to talk about that and share that. So it really kind of does circle back. That's such an important point. One of the books we recommend a lot is, we love Simon Sinek, Start With Why, and his YouTube video. Yes. We'll include that in the show notes as well. It's such a great resource for helping you kind of gain the clarity into why you're doing what you do.
And just because you've graduated or just because you've got your license, it's not enough for consumers, aka our clients, anymore. They actually want to know about us, our personal story. And I'm not saying we need to be disclosing or being unprofessional or unethical, but just having a credential is not enough. Mm-hmm. So we need to tap into what our credential allows us, who it allows us to be. That's a better question. Ooh. Yeah. I'll write that down.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that clinicians struggle with a lot, because when they're in grad school, they're taught don't self-disclose, have such firm boundaries. And so when people start exploring that side of things and getting to the point of trying to share a little bit about their story of maybe what inspired their passion or brought them to this calling, it's a little bit of it out of their comfort zone. Yes. So I think this would be a perfect point to go ahead and take a quick break for our sponsors, and then we'll get back into topic number 2.
Developing and growing a practice can be a huge undertaking between maintaining schedules, organizing client records, submitting insurance claims, and running your own practice. It can be overwhelming. You work hard and deserve to get paid well. Having an electronic medical record, which is a secure and streamlined practice management system like Therapy Notes, you'll have more time to spend with what matters most, your clients. Therapy Notes integrates all aspects of your workflow to help you provide your clients with the best care they deserve and making your life a whole lot easier. From easy-to-use templates to simple electronic claim submission, Therapy Notes has everything you need to maintain client records, schedule appointments, and bill insurance right at your fingertips. Therapy Notes is trusted by over 25,000 clinicians just like you. The best part? Visit therapynotes.com and enter promo code PPS17. That's PPS17, as in Private Practice System 17. And you'll get a 30-day trial and your first year for 10% off. Don't forget to enter that code PPS17. You want to know more about the benefits of Therapy Notes? Join us on a podcast, episode 54 of the Private Practice Startup, where we chat with the owner and creator of Therapy Notes, Brad Pliner.
All right. Joe, tell us topic number 2 based on how to talk, write, and speak so your ideal clients can hear you.
Okay, so we've covered off on who you are. You've got to get solid around that. So then we want to know who we serve. And there's so much information about how to go and find your ideal client. I actually did a bit of an audit of all the different resources on how to go and find your ideal client. And if anyone is trying to do this right now, you should be confused because there is so much information that is free out there on how to do it. If you're not confused, holy crapola, Batman, you're amazing. So your ideal client is the person. So we're not talking about a population. We're talking about a person, because the more personalized, we do one-on-one therapy or we do group therapy. So we need to be able to talk to people in a one-on-one on a small group environment. So you want to know this person who you serve, your ideal client, better than they know themselves. So I take my clients through an exercise where they actually have to find out 150 unique things about their ideal client. And everyone starts that off with gusto going, that's so easy. And I'm like, yep, okay. And then a week later, they're at about somewhere between 85 and 110. And they're like, oh my God, Jo, I can't do this. And that's great, because as a coach, I'm always looking for that boundary condition when people say, I don't know. That's where I actually do my best work. If you say to me, I don't know, then I've got something to work with. When you know it all, then why do you need me? So finding out who you serve is not just enough to say, they're male in their 50s, who are high performance and stressed out at work and they wear a business suit. That's just nowhere near enough. You need to get focused in, why would this person be looking for therapeutic services? What are going to be their objections to coming to you? And who else is in their world that would be supporting them or not supporting them? Where do they live? Where do they work? Where do they hang out? Do they hang out online? If they're not hanging out online, where else are they hanging out? Because people are not attracted necessarily. They don't go online and say, I need a therapist in California. Well, some people do, but it's usually after they've spoken to friends, they've spoken to family, they've Googled how to sleep when you're anxious, they've Googled, my boss is an idiot, how do I tell him he's an idiot? They've done their self-diagnosis through Google, they've possibly gone and spoken to another health professional, and they tend to come to us as a last resort, because there's this perception, well, we've got myths to bust. So there's a perception that we're not useful, that our work goes on forever. People don't want to have to confront the secrets inside themselves, and we're expensive. So if you're not talking into those 4 things to start with, there you go back and listen to that again.
Yeah, lots of good points there.
You really need to be handling those objections. So if you can come up with 150 things you know about your ideal client, then we can actually use that information and we can then learn to craft your conversation with them, which leads me into my third point. Are we okay to move on to the third point?
Yes, we're okay to move on to the third point. And I love how that's the second time you've mentioned the word conversation. And it's such a beautiful reframe and so true, because so many people are intimidated about the word marketing. They freak out. They think it's icky and salesy and pushy and imposing. But when you think about it as a conversation, you're just engaging people in conversation. That's just such a freeing way to think about it. So yes, please go on. Number 3.
So how to talk so that your ideal clients can hear you and find you is about the conversation. So we all know how to have a conversation with that prospective client on the phone. So if you think about that when the client calls you and you pick up the phone and they go, hi, my name's Mary, and I think I might want to book in an appointment for you. What we need to get good at is thinking about the conversations that Mary has had, what she's read, what she's heard, who she's spoken to, the self-talk going on in her head before she gets to the point of picking up the phone and dialing the number. That's what your marketing is. It is that conversation. So it's what she has read online. It's what she's read on your website. It's what she's heard other people say. It's your downloads or your opt-ins. It's your email marketing. It's your offline marketing. It's the workshops that you've presented at. It's where branding and culture and all of that comes together in a conversation that says, I'm Jo, this is what I stand for, this is who I serve, this is how I help you. I would love to talk to you about how I can help you do X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've done the work and you know exactly who you are and you know who you are best suited to serve, the conversation flows. Where we get tripped up is we think that online marketing and being online is uber confusing and really scary. Well, it is when you look at all of the things that you're supposed to do with online marketing. But there, and you and I have been through that.
Oh my gosh, tell me about it. Yes, I've been in tech land, lost in tech land for, I feel like, this entire year, but yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. So much. I sang a little song about it. So
yes.
So we end up confusing us. And we've got to remember that as professionals and as clinicians, we hate getting stuff wrong. We hate it. Getting stuff wrong is abhorrent. It's different to failing, but we never want to present ourselves poorly, and we never want to offend anyone, and we certainly don't want to offend our clients. But if you can think about everything that you write as a part of a conversation, so if you get to the point where you created a really great, valuable opt-in for people to come to on your website, and something that you can give away when you do a workshop, or something that you can give at a doctor's surgery. So, letters, business cards, they all get chucked in the bin. You got to get more creative than that. You can't compete with the big pharma companies, so you need to get more creative than that. But let's reverse engineer that conversation and go, what do these people want to know about? What is their conversation going on in their head? Now, if we love these people, if we're compassionate about these people, and we know these people and we've done the homework, then that's going to become so much easier, because everything you write, every time you go to a workshop, every time you go to a conference, you're going to be consistent. You're going to be talking the same language, and people go, like they do with me, oh, Joe, you're from Purple Co. You help people get back to work. We've got to send this and this and this person to you. Or I get this gorgeous woman from Dallas the other day called me up, and she goes, I want to do this right, so I'm going to come to you. We're going to start working together in January, and this is what I think I need. And I'm like, oh, crap. That's how I know my language, my conversation online.
The coolest thing about that is that clinicians are taught this skill. They're taught to speak their client's language.
Yes.
It's just using it in a completely different way that most people probably haven't thought of.
Well, and I think we trip ourselves up because we've now put this label of marketing on it. Well, don't. Just take the word marketing out of your vocabulary if it scares you, and use the word conversation. And don't get tripped up about all of the launch online stuff that you need to do. Like, just simple is great. Yes, you need a website. Oh, fun fact, when I started my business, I didn't have a website for 2 years. And if you want to see a shockingly awful website, go to Purple Co. Don't do that.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, the Joe Muirhead one is much better, but I've invested heavily in a new Purple Co website. But it goes to show you, I've grown a really successful, profitable, multiple six-figure business over 8 years with a crappy website.
Wow.
Because Purple Co by far is the biggest revenue stream for me. The Joe Muirhead coaching stuff is nice, kind of icing on the cake, but Purple Co is how I pay my bills. And Purple, so, I think we get too hung up on getting it right and which, email autoresponder should I use, and then everybody wants free. Just go and use MailChimp until you learn how to make it work, and then you'll realize that you want something else, and then you've got to landing pages. There's all sorts of variations of landing pages. Just, learn what a landing page is, and then go and decide what piece of software you need.
Yes, it's not about the perfection. It's just about getting started, and it will all evolve over the years. It's a living, breathing organism, so it will continue to evolve and grow for sure. Joe,
absolutely.
What do you want to make sure our listeners take away from your message here today?
Well, I think if you're feeling like you've got a spaghetti brain where all of this, conversation and marketing stuff is kind of bubbling around in your head, I just want you to write down 3 things on a piece of paper. I want you to go, who are you? Seriously, and all of you, not just your credentials. Are you a mum? Are you a sister? And what do you love? And what's fun for you? And what do you hate? Sometimes the what do you hate column is longer than the what you love column, and that's perfectly okay. So we can do that at the top of the page. And then at the bottom of the page, we're going who you serve and why you love these people. What is it that you can do for this particular client group? Why should everyone in your community, when they hear the word depression, go, ooh, I need to go and see that person, go and see you? That's not egotistical. That is not setting yourself up beyond your capabilities, because you're not going to choose a population or client group that isn't a good fit for you, because we just don't do that. If it's a client group and a client population that you want to work with that you don't have experience in, well, go get the experience and grow your expertise. And the last thing is, let's swap out the word marketing if that's freaking you out, and let's replace it with the word conversation. And I want you to think of that conversation that has been had before the client gets on the phone to book their first appointment.
Beautiful. Yeah, those are 3 great additional tips for our audience. And I know you guys are going to find tons of value in this, because it's so important to reframe these things and really get clear before you put your message out there. And Joe, if you could recommend a great book or a resource to our audience, to Startup Nation on this particular topic, what would that be?
Oh, you know what? I find it really, really hard to find resources on this particular topic, because everybody's got a way of saying it and a way of doing it. And I've kind of pulled out 20 years of learning how to do it. I think one of the most effective books I've read that has got some of this stuff in it is probably Seth Godin's Tribes. Which might sound a little bit unusual, but I guess he really helps you understand why you're tripping yourself up. That was a great thing for me as well. Like, he talks about fear of failure being overrated, and he talks about understanding charisma. And so it's kind of some foundational stuff to help build a platform for feeling confident in how to pull this stuff together.
Awesome. And based on your 20 years of experience and really figuring out, putting all of this stuff together, I know you and I were talking before we started pushing the record button on the podcast about your exciting news with a book release in 2018. So this is obviously something you haven't disclosed to the world yet. So we're going to hold you accountable. Share with us a little bit about that.
Okay, so there is a book in the works. If you've been in my community for any length of time, I often joke about the fact, I should write a book, and then everybody jumps on the thread going, when are you writing the book? Well, the book is coming. I've actually engaged with a person to help me write the book and write it well. It's about the entrepreneurial clinician. So I'm going to talk right into how clinicians can embrace being an entrepreneur, but also why we find it difficult. There's going to be case studies and stories from people who have busted through being a clinician and actually created something quite astounding. And people from all over the world is my goal, and not just mega bucks types of entrepreneurism. I've got a social entrepreneur as well who's created an amazing project in Cambodia. He doesn't know that he's going to be invited, but maybe he'll listen to this podcast and find out that that's what's going to happen. So I'm looking forward to building some great resources around that book for people as well. So that's what I'm going to be working on. Woo-hoo!
That's awesome.
You heard it here first.
Yes. So thank you for sharing the exciting news with Startup Nation. And when you do launch that book, we'll definitely have to share the links and how people can access it and all of that good stuff. And I know you've got a great giveaway for our audience as well. What is that?
Yeah, so this is about, in the first part of the conversation we've had today, getting to know you. And the title, it's called Finding Freedom in Your Private Practice. And it's more than just an ebook. It's actually got workbook content in it. So it'll help you understand why you're feeling trapped, if you're feeling trapped, how to avoid feeling trapped, and how to actually start opening up the conversation with yourself around who am I and who do I serve. So the link for that will no doubt be in the show notes. Oops, sorry. Just
exactly.
Roll there.
It's all good. We were talking about that before. Yes. So all the links for the resources we've talked about today will be in our show notes. So make sure to check those out. And gosh, it was so awesome to connect with you on our podcast today and have you share your perspective and these fantastic tips on how to talk, write, and speak so your ideal client can hear you. And I know Startup Nation is going to find it to be super valuable. So we'll add your contact information as well. And I know people can connect with you within our Facebook community too. So Startup Nation, Make sure you want to tune in to next week's podcast, which is going to be with Kara Crossweight-Brendel. She's going to talk about an app that she created for private practice. So it's going to be the 5 things you need to know before creating an app in private practice. That's going to have a ton of value on it as well. And make sure you check out our show notes from this episode for all the tips and resources and giveaway and links. And then don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review, and share our show with your friends and fellow colleagues. We hope you guys have an awesome day, and we look forward to inspiring you from startup to mastery. Thanks, Joe.
Pleasure. Bye.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.